Screenagers. October is right around the corner. Obviously, Screenage Wasteland will be celebrating the spooky season with a bunch of great horror and Halloween-related content. You can check that out on the website. Including here on the Canon, we're going to be celebrating the spooky season by celebrating some of the best horror movies ever made. We've got a great lineup over the next couple of weeks for y'all. I know it's the week before October, but we wanted to start a little bit early just because there are so many great movies that we want to talk about, including this one. Today's movie is, of course, Carrie. I am joined by my good friends, Screenage Wasteland contributors, Ramona Comet and Sailor Monsoon, the one and only, the two and only. How are you guys doing today?
Fantastic. Again.
Peachy keen.
It's always a great day when I get to be on the podcast.
Mm-hmm. I know, Ramona, I think this is 2 weeks in a row for us.
I know it is. It's great.
This is your first time back since Blazing Saddles that kicked off season 2.
Me or Ramona? Was
Sailor,
Ramona there? Oh.
No.
I was like, I don't remember. I mean, I'm high, but I don't remember. I'm not that high. Was she?
You might be that high.
Did you edit her in that I was unaware of?
Yeah, that you were not aware of.
What was the episode you guys just recorded?
Gross Point Blank. Yeah.
Gross Point Blank. Oh, yes. That's a great movie.
Great movie. Thanks for following along with the show, Sailor.
Awesome. I didn't know it was...
Happy we have your support.
It already dropped? You can edit that out.
Last week.
It did. It was great.
It was great. It was a wonderful time. You should check it out. All good. No worries.
I absolutely should.
This is why we love having Sailor on. Sailor also hosts the Total Recast podcast for Screenage Wasteland, which will be coming back soon or is back now already, to be determined, but definitely be on the lookout for stuff going on there. I think Sailor and Duke are relaunching that show, maybe remaking, and we'll definitely talk about remakes later because this movie does have some remakes. But before we get into Carrie, remakes and all that good stuff, Halloween is almost here. I feel like it's my favorite time of the year. I don't know if you guys feel the same way. I like to always start it a little early. If it were up to me, we would have kicked it off a few weeks ago, not just today, but here we are. I was wondering if you guys had any specific traditions or things that you like to do either during October, during the Halloween season, or Halloween day itself. And Sailor, I feel like you're not a big tradition guy, so I'm gonna throw it to you first.
You are correct. I do not. There's very little traditions I have, especially around October. For October, I always, every single day in October, I try to watch one brand new horror movie I've never seen. I'm not big on rewatches because I can watch them whenever. So I try to watch one brand new one, and at least one Italian one, because that's as much as I can handle throughout the year, because I can't stand Italian horror movies. So I'm already working.
It's a good thing we're not having you on next week for Suspiria.
Oh, but that's actually one of the only ones I dig. I do love that one. God, I love that movie. They are so slow and boring. I can't stand them. So I'm already working on my watch list for October. But no, I'm not a Halloween Town, hocus pocus, gotta get into the mood type of person. My mood is what's new that I haven't seen, because that's what gets me excited.
Love it. That sounds about right. Ramona, what about you? Do you guys have any traditions in your house with your husband and your kids or anything?
You know what? Not really, beyond taking them out to trick or treat. And they're actually I think they're starting to get to the age where that probably won't be happening much longer. So, which kind of makes me sad because I really do like, we go with my sister and her family, and we all kind of go together trick-or-treating. So that's always really fun. But I kind of just have my own tradition. My husband's not big on scary movies, so I have to watch them by myself and or with my horror-loving sister. We'll go to the movies a lot to see movies that I know he's not going to watch with me. So I kind of just watch these horror movies throughout October when I have a few hours to myself and can get away with it. I will
Mhm.
admit sometimes I'll watch a movie or two with my daughters in the house, and one or two might wander in and watch them with me, which it's fine. I mean, if I can get them started early, loving the kind of movies that I do, then I'm okay with that. But other than just
Mhm.
watching the movies and putting up the decorations, which I actually did today, that's really all the tradition I have. I kind of just do it myself, which is kind of
Just
sad, but also very nice because I don't have people asking me questions and
mhm.
talking through the movie, and I can just enjoy it.
Mhm.
I was gonna ask if your daughters are starting to get into spooky movies or if you're starting them off like kind of light. Um,
No, they're into it. Well, one of them is into it. I have three, and one of them
mhm,
kind of will sit there and watch spooky stuff with me. She likes reading Goosebumps, and
mhm,
she's starting to get into Fear Street, which got me into horror when I was in junior high, or maybe it was like
mhm.
fifth grade. I forget. Anyway, she'll watch it with me. I watch a lot of true crime documentaries, and she
Mhm.
watches those with me. So, and then she'll
Nice.
ask me questions about what's parole mean. So I have to explain it to her. What's the difference between first degree and second degree murder? So she kind of knows that stuff already, but she'll come in and watch stuff. She went with me to see Jurassic Park when it was back in the theater for the 30th anniversary. She came with me.
Nice.
And I do consider that we've talked about this. I do consider that a
Yeah.
horror movie. So
Mhm.
she liked that a lot. And I think she's kind of into the spooky stuff. She likes Halloween. So if out of three, I
The
have at least,
holiday or the movie?
no, she hasn't seen the movie yet, the holiday, but
Okay.
it's possible she'll watch Halloween with me this year. I saw Halloween when I was young with my mom, so you never know.
I think
And
it's
Halloween, honestly, is one of the ones that I think would be better for her to see than some of the other slasher flicks that are a lot
yeah, because
bloodier.
Oh yeah.
there's very little blood in it. There's no blood
Yeah,
really.
it's very
Yeah.
suspenseful more
Yeah.
so than
Very
anything
suspenseful.
else.
Yeah.
So we'll
Halloween
see.
also in the
Yeah.
canon. We won't be talking
Yes.
about it this October, but it is definitely in the canon.
Great
Um,
movie.
Ramona, I know you're also a huge Stephen King fan, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I think would you consider yourself to be Screen Age Wasteland's resident Stephen King expert, or is that a title that you share with like I know Bob is also super into Stephen King,
Bob
but
loves
I'm
Stephen King.
wondering.
I don't know. I always feel weird calling myself an expert on anything because then someone's like, "Oh, well, here's a question," and then I'm like, "I don't know." So it's just I don't want to put myself in that position, but I do. Stephen King is Fear Street, and Stephen King kickstarted my love of reading and my love of horror. So I have a very special in my head connection to Stephen King for that reason. And his books are an automatic buy for me. I don't wait. I pre-order. I don't wait and see what the reviews say. I buy it. I read it. Most of the time I love it. Sometimes I'm okay with it. The
Mhm.
movie, same thing. I'll watch it. Even if it's terrible, I'll say it's terrible, but it's Stephen King. So I'm like,
So
yeah,
you love it.
I love it. Yeah.
I love
Unless
that.
it completely destroys the source material, then I'm like, what was it? Running Man. Like, what does this have to do with Stephen King's
Mm-hmm.
book? Like, that makes me upset. But other than that,
You're on thin
that's why I
ice,
love this
Ramona.
movie so much.
You're on thin ice.
Do you, do you have a do you have a favorite Stephen King book or like a top 3?
Favorite Stephen King book is The Stand,
Mm.
100%. And I
Which
actually
one is The
did
Stand again?
The Stand is the pandemic that wipes out 98% of human
Mm,
civilization.
mhm.
Randall Flagg, Good and Evil. I did a podcast where I went through it chapter by chapter and reviewed every single chapter.
Ooh.
So
And I'm
yeah,
assuming the
love.
extended cut.
Well, where can
Yes,
people check that out?
it's the podcast is called The Circle Opens. And they can find it anywhere they listen to podcasts. So, and it is the extended cut. That's the only way to read this book. Do not read the cut version; it's not worth it. So,
Sweet. Yeah, definitely go
yeah.
check out that
It's a
show. All of our Stephen
huge
King
book.
fans.
It's very large, yes, but it's so good. It's so good. I reread it. I try to reread it every year, but lately it's been like maybe once every other year. I'll reread it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Sailor, are you also a big Stephen King fan?
I adore Stephen King, but
Mhm.
with a caveat, I'm much more into his short stories.
Oh
Mm.
yeah.
The
Yes.
man tends to ramble and drone on. He really does. I'm like, I got it. Beatles on the jukebox. Like, I got it. Like, I don't need The Stand took me a very long time to read.
I was about to ask if you got through it.
Oh man,
I'm laughing at the idea of Sailor. I mean this with so much love, but you yourself are a bit of a rambler.
Oh yeah.
So I love that that's your big criticism of Stephen King.
Oh, but man, when it's like fucking page 700 and you're like, oh my god, I got it, Stephen, I got it. Like Under the Dome, there's a whole subplot about a dude who ate wax to shit out a candle, and you're like, what am I reading, King? What am I? Like his best book to me is.
To be fair, it's true. It is true. That's why his books are so damn long.
The dude loves to write.
Yeah,
he does. He
And
does. His short stories are brilliant, though.
It's short to the point, and you're like, yes, get to the spooks. The man knows how to deliver the spooks, but The Shining is amazing because it feels like the pace of the movie, which is why it's weird to me that he doesn't. I get why he doesn't like it, but it has that deliberate pace where I feel like I'm stuck in a place with an insane person. So it's deliberate and I like it. So I can deal with that. But it's like, oh, here's another digression. And it's like, fuck. Can I just get back to the clown?
The Shining. Also in the canon.
The man has...
There will be an episode on that in a couple of weeks.
The man knows how to write. But his best one to me is nonfiction one on writing. Everyone, even if you're not a horror fan, needs to read that book because it'll teach you everything you need to know how to write, which will improve even the way you speak. The man knows how to break down sentence structure, story, character, and it's the funniest thing in the world where he talks about the editing process, and I'm like, come on, King, you ain't got no editor. Stop playing. Get that shit out of here.
He ignores his editors, I'll tell you that much.
There is no editing. Whatever the hell pops into your head, clicking and clacking on that keyboard. But here's the thing, God bless him, because he is managing a book a year, it seems like, since he retired about 15 years ago. He made a big deal. I'm retiring. I'm done.
Yeah, he can't. Books. I think he'll be writing until he dies.
Yeah, he can't. It can't.
Yeah.
The dude loves to write.
He does. And it's funny that this is his first book and wasn't even going to be his first book because he threw it away. Tossed it.
Yeah, his wife dug it out. His wife made him finish
Interesting. I didn't know that this was his first book. I knew that this was the first movie adaptation of a Stephen King book. And so maybe this is a good place for us to start talking about Carrie, because I can only imagine that there is a ton of stuff that we're going to want to get to regarding this movie. So yeah, Ramona, do you want to tell us a little bit about what almost happened with this book and then sort of like how it got picked up and ended up being the first book of his that ended up being a movie? And then Sailor, maybe off of that, if you want to talk about how this movie sort of then like caused Stephen King adaptations to like blow up as like their own subgenre. But yeah, Ramona, give us the background on Carrie the book first.
Well, from what I can remember, and I read this book for the first time actually many years ago. I remember I read it when I was very young, but then like a lot of things that kind of just slipped out of my mind. So I reread it a while back. And I remember reading, when I was doing a review on this book, I remember reading about how, because before this novel, Stephen King wrote a lot of short stories for his, I think it was for his college newspaper, but also for like various men's magazines and such. So when he started writing this, I remember reading that he got inspiration from it, from like it was an article in some magazine about telekinesis. So that kind of, jump-started his inspiration to write this novel. And I remember I read that he had started writing the novel and then got a little, I don't know how many chapters he actually wrote before he tossed it. He just threw it away. He wasn't feeling like he could really respond or to knowing what it was like to be female. And of course, this book, it revolves around a young teenage girl who, the very beginning starts, her period for the first time. And he doesn't know what that's like. So he just felt very uncomfortable being in that position. So he threw it away.
Mhm.
And his wife, Tabitha, who is also an author, she took the manuscript from the trash and she persuaded him to just keep at it, keep writing. She liked the story where he was going so far. And eventually, you know, he finished it and he was able to connect to Carrie in such a way. And that's how he finished this book. And I love the way he wrote it. It's all in like interviews and newspaper articles. And it's it keeps you
Interesting.
in it keeps you enthralled in such a if he had written straight novel the way most of his other books are, I think it would
Mhm.
still have been great, but I love the way he gets the different perspectives into the novel through these different, you know, media outlets and the like. So that's
Yeah.
what I remember reading about it. If I got any details wrong, I apologize, but that's what I remember reading was he just wasn't going to do this because he's like, I don't know what it's like to be a female, let alone a teenage girl. But his wife, you know, who did and does, she
Mhm.
said, finish this, you know, it's good. You need to get it done. And he did. And it blew up, you know, so
Sweet.
it was great. Yeah.
Sailor, do you have anything else on the inception of this book, or how then this book got picked up to then become this movie?
I honestly don't. I just remember that anecdote that he,
Mhm.
like Ramona said, that he felt uncomfortable writing from a female perspective. Um,
Mhm.
that I love the fact that he wanted to include that because he knew that that would be important in a woman's life, her first period, and he thought, what
Mhm.
if I didn't know that, what would I go through? And then how that turned into because that really is the most important part of the book and movie, because
Mhm.
she truly doesn't understand what's going on. And as a
Mm-hmm.
man who has never experienced it, I feel Stephen King's trepidation, because I'd be like, I don't know how to write this. I don't understand
Yeah.
these feelings. And what if those feelings manifested into this power? A running thread through a lot of his stories is either children in danger or children having the power to fight the danger. It's either one or the other,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
or something. I mean, the overlap is the children usually having to fight the danger, but he has no problem killing kids, but he also has no problem giving those kids power. And this is the beginning of that, even though this is the beginning of everything, because it's the first.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, the first thing he ever wrote was the beginning of the Dark Tower. That
Oh, yeah.
the
Mm.
first sentence of the Gunslinger is the first thing he ever wrote. He didn't know where
It's
to.
such a great line, too.
It really is. What is it? The man in black fled into the desert, and the gunslinger followed.
Gunslinger followed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he wrote it down, and he's like, "I like that." And it took him years and years and years to finish it, and then even longer to because that story is wild. Um, the Dark Tower. We're not going to get into that because that'd be an 8-hour podcast. But the fact that
It was.
he wrote that down, he loved it, and put it on the thing, and he's like, "All right, what's next? Oh, girl with period who has telekinesis." You know what I mean? Like the way that
Yeah.
man's brain
Wild jump.
works. Yeah, and he's like, "I don't know what to do with this cool story about a cowboy. How about a teenage girl? What's that perspective like?" So it's interesting. But then
Yeah.
on top of that, I really don't know how De Palma got attached. I'm assuming it
Mhm.
had to have been sisters, because the only other thing he made before that, I mean, he made a bunch of movies, but I doubt immensely it was Phantom of the Paradise that got him this job. So I would have to imagine sisters got him.
Mhm.
I truly don't know. I don't know how he was attached, but
Yeah, I don't know. I unfortunately wasn't able to do too much research about this movie, but that would have been interesting to know, like, sort of just like how this book ended up getting optioned, and then,
Hmm.
you know, I assume based on what you're saying, Sailor, that this wasn't like a passion project for De Palma where he had like read Carrie and he was like, I got to turn this into a book or turn this into a
Actually,
movie.
it was. It
Oh,
was.
please
He
tell
went.
us.
I don't know how it finally got into production, but I do know he did read the book, and he read the book, and it was suggested to him by a friend of his who was an author, who had a friend who was an author named Stephen King, And he said, you should read this book. It's great. So De Palma read Carrie. He loved it. And he called his agent actually to find out who owned the rights to this book. And his agent said, nobody bought the rights to this book. So he started, while studios were considering, he started calling around to let people know that he had read the book and he loved it and he wanted to direct it. And then I believe he said in an interview, after he told people he wanted to do it, nothing happened for several months before it finally kicked into gear and they got him on board. But I do know that he read it and he loved it. And that's why he wanted to direct. But I don't know anything that happened after that.
Yeah. Well, no,
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's super. I think that's super helpful for us to know. And we say this every week, but I think it's important to reiterate. Part of what we're trying to do here at the Canon is to understand, why these movies are essential, and part of that is the lasting legacy that they have. And I think, for one, the fact that this is the first movie based on a Stephen King book or story, and like how much that has blown up in our culture, is a super important part of this movie. And De Palma's place in it is kind of funny, like I don't know. I'm not a big De Palma guy, and Ramon, I know you're also not a huge De Palma fan. But Sailor, I was wondering if you could give us some sort of context and background about the De Palma of it all and where this fits into his filmography and like what it means in relation to the rest of his movies.
Well, there's two De Palmas. There's the Hollywood De Palma, and which I'm going to put this into that classification. Your Mission Impossibles, your Untouchables, your Casualties of War, Carlito's Way. That's the Hollywood De Palma. Then there's the seedy
Scarface.
I mean, he's got a bunch.
Yeah.
Then there's the second De Palma, which is Hitchcock, X-rated Hitchcock. Let's say. I mean, there's no other way to put it. That's your body doubles. That's your Dress to Kills. That's your Raising Cane's. He said in an interview, and this isn't. That's what he said. He viewed Hitchcock as a genre. And he's like, why should that genre die when he died? I like that genre. I want to continue making those movies. And it's evident when you see those movies. Hitchcock was the master of suspense because he was handcuffed by the studio system. He never wanted to be the master of suspense. He wanted to show you the horrible shit. Hitchcock always wanted to show you the violence. He did. Kaleidoscope, his unmade movie, it was going to be extremely violent, but he couldn't do it. He was born before, and thank God. Because, honestly, because those limitations created the most suspenseful things you've ever seen. Because he's like, all right, if I can't show you everything I want to show you, I'm not going to show you anything. So he's just flipped it. De Palma had no problem with that. De Palma is one of those directors that truly wanted to make porn with violence. He wanted to, again, this is not an exaggeration. That was a fight he wanted to make with the studio. He wanted to show you everything. If he can show you titties, why can't he show you having full porn on theater screens? Like, that's what
I think you mean dirty pillows.
Dirty pillows, yes, of course.
There you go.
He wanted that. De Palma wanted that. But in that, he inadvertently kind of created the slasher. Because De Palma, as with the Italian directors of that time, were so in love with the idea of this insane grand guignol ultra violence that they both fed into each other, and that's spilled over into the slasher system. I mean, all Friday the 13th is just ripping off Mario Bava. So they all fed into each other. But yeah, if it wasn't for Brian De Palma, we would never probably would have had slashers. I mean, the template was Halloween, but like we might have said it off mic. Halloween is not bloody. It's not violent at all, really. There's only one scene in that movie that you can say is violent, where he stabs a dude on the wall. And compared to everything else, come on, that's tame as shit. You can show that on TV now. That's nothing.
It's true.
You can't show Dress to Kill on TV now. You can't show Body Double. Like, it's insane. So it's funny to me that you can have this man who has these desires to make porn with blood and then make something as tender as Carrie. Because this movie, as violent as it gets at the end and as horrific as it is, and it is tender because you feel for Sissy Spacek.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no point in this movie where you do not feel for her as a character. Even though she turns into a monster at the end of this movie, she is like a universal horror movie monster. She is a monster through circumstance. She is a tragic monster. She's a Frankenstein. She's a Dracula. She's a wolf.
Yeah. That's a really good point.
She didn't want to be a monster. She was just forced to be one because everyone around her is worse.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that this man, who again, once y'all watch Body Double, you'll be like, "Holy shit, he made Carrie." This man, this dude, I wouldn't let him. Yeah, I wouldn't let him around a woman, let alone have him direct this movie. Like, because he's been accused of misogyny throughout his entire career. Because the way he treats women in movies, even in Blowout, he was accused of misogyny. But again, you look at Karen, you're like, that is clearly not the case at all. He feels for this woman. This movie would not work if he wasn't as sympathetic as he was towards the character of Carrie. So.
Right.
Interesting. Ramona, did you want to jump in on that point?
Which point?
the point about well, I think Sailor gave us a lot of like really great background, but he also gave us a good jumping off point to actually like dive into the movie Carrie itself. He was talking about, how De Palma there is a tenderness to this movie. There is a sympathy and empathy for the character of Carrie and all of that. He touched on Sissy Spacek's performance, which is absolutely incredible. But yeah, I was just wondering if you had anything on any of those points.
Yeah, I mean, it still baffles me when I see Carrie listed among like horror movies' greatest villains. Like, she's not a villain. She's the hero of this movie.
Yeah.
I agree that, she becomes a villain at the end. That word bothers me, but she was made into what she was by the people in her life and the people who let her down and, failed her. Not only that, but, her crazy her mother, Margaret White, is the villain of this movie. I mean, you could say everybody in this movie is a villain except for Carrie, but her mother is the monster.
No.
So,
well, I hope I didn't call her a villain. I did specifically.
No, you didn't. You didn't call her a villain. No, but I'll see lists online of like the top 25 greatest horror villains of all time, and I'll see Carrie on there. I'm like, what are they smoking? Like, she was absolutely not the villain in this. And I haven't seen a lot of De Palma's movies, so I'm not sure how he treats women in the other films. But with Carrie, in the hands of the wrong director, they could have made her a villain. Yeah. They could have had Sissy Spacek or whoever play her completely differently, had them pull away from the source material, made her somebody to fear, kind of that. That was, and not to jump ahead to the remakes, but that was one of the things I didn't really like about one of the remakes is Carrie was very like death stare, kind of empty eyed. And that wasn't Carrie to me. So, to that point, I think that the way that it was directed stuck very close to, I think, the themes and the way that King wrote Carrie himself with that sympathetic touch. He did his best. The book is coming from different points of view a lot. So you hear what these other people are thinking about Carrie, but just the way he is writing that she is, the victim in this book and this movie. And she tried really hard to not be, but when you're pushed to the brink and you have people coming at you, her, mother trying to kill her and her classmates in her mind laughing at her. So it's just, she's a very sympathetic character in, cinema as a whole, I think. And she was pushed to do what she did because of all the people surrounding her. So that's what I love about this movie. And I love that, for it being King's first book adaptation into a film, it's probably still one of the best ones out of all the ones that have been done, because it sticks so close to how King intended it to be. They didn't Hollywoodize it by changing Carrie into this big monstrous teenage girl, to have some kind of fun analogy on her becoming a woman by getting her period. Look how she's raging and she's crazy now, which could have happened.
Look at this hysterical woman. Yeah,
exactly. She, look at what this does to women. So I don't know. Sailor made some great points. She becomes the monster, but as a whole, she's not the villain in this film.
Oh no, not at all.
Yeah.
I think you brought up a lot of really great points that I want us to veer off into, and I'm not sure which direction I want us to go into first. But I totally agree with you guys that there's no reading of this movie that should be Carrie as a villain. She is very much so a victim in this movie. Yes, she ends up turning into what we would put in quotes, a monster, but like you said, she was forced into that position. One of the people who forced her into that position is her god-awful mother.
Ugh, so bad.
Is this the worst mom in movie history? She is so terrible. She's terrible.
Close. She's up there.
She's awful. She's awful. And what's sad is there are people like her who actually exist in this world, who use that religious ideology to, harbor, hate and sin. And, it's every time I watch this movie, I cringe every time she comes on the screen because I know what's coming. She's just a terrible person, horrible mother. Carrie didn't stand a chance. So,
which is a theme that Stephen King has repeated. Religious ideology is always, I'm not going to say always, but he hits that hammer home many times. Miss Carmody and The Mist, Children of the
Religion.
It's always religion used as a weapon. And that's really what Miss Carrie's mom, Margaret White, is all about. Is she's awful. She's also kind of I'm glad they didn't. She's also a victim.
Interesting.
If you read it, and maybe I'm wrong, but she had sex when she was super young, and clearly the man who just used her for sex, and then she looked at herself as dirty. They don't really make that much of a point of it, but you can look at it as a woman.
It's generational trauma.
Yeah,
she probably got that from her parents.
She was.
That's kind of.
She came home pregnant at a wedlock because she's of that generation. Her parents were like, "Well, you're gonna have to marry Jesus now." So that might have been the situation, and I'm glad that they didn't really address that full on. But you could read into that, and I'm not saying that excuses any of her behavior, but that's the thing with monsters is you can always go ahead.
I was going to say, I think you bring up a good point, because my reading of this movie has always been that the mom is the main villain, the main antagonist. But I like that you're taking it sort of a step further and you're placing the blame on the absent father. And my reading was always, he just left because the mom was insane. But I think if you read it as, he was a douchebag and that turned her into a monster, thus turning Carrie into a monster. I don't know. Then you're kind of we're kind of reading it in a men suck kind of way, as opposed to bad mommies.
Well, men do suck in this movie. Let's be very clear on that.
Yeah,
the women aren't the only people that bully fucking Carrie. The men are very much along for the ride. Except
but the root of
Tommy. Poor Tommy.
The root of evil is then more is more from man than it is from woman, which I think as a man making a movie about women, it's tough if your thesis is women are root of evil. But that might be a discussion for another day.
I could be reading into more than that's on the text, but to me it was always a dude wanting to deflower the good girl. You know what I mean? The ultra religious goody. And
Mm-hmm.
there was a bet involved. He's like, I bet you can't deflower the religious nut.
What
And he's
now?
like,
You're reading into it like maybe a little too much.
I could be, but I
You've
just,
got off-screen gambling going on.
well, I mean, that's the men that King usually presents in his movies, so it's not that much of a stretch. Men are usually
Mm-hmm.
awful in his stories. They're bullies. They're no good because he does not let men. It is not just the women in this. It is very much the men are complicit. They're along for the ride, along to
Oh yeah,
ruin
I
this
mean,
poor girl's life that they have no context for. The women would make more sense to fuck with Carrie, but they're like, yeah, let's pour pig shit on her in blood. That'll be fun. And it's like they have no idea who the hell Carrie is, anyways. But they're like, yeah,
no,
why not?
I think the high school male characters are sort of stand-ins for the idea that men who are blinded by horniness will just do like the absolute dumbest and worst things.
Yeah.
You know, like you're saying, there's no reason for these guys to be in on these pranks with Carrie, but they're just like, wait, maybe I can get some action if I do. Yeah, let's go
Yeah.
kill some pigs. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
Well, the reason why I'm reading into it a little bit more, because it does seem like Harry's mom was obsessed with the love that she lost. So it does feel like he fed her all this bullshit, got her laid, or had sex with her. She got pregnant and he ditched. So it does not seem like it was a love for the ages. It feels like he used her for that
Weren't
one.
they married though? Didn't
Oh,
they get married?
well, then maybe I'm making up a whole
Because
bunch
I'm
of
pretty.
shit. Maybe I'm making a bunch.
I had thought they got married. From what I remember, they got married. And she, you know, they had sex one time, and he promised they would never. She didn't want to do it anymore, and he's like, "Okay, we don't have to do it anymore." So they had like a very sexless marriage, and then he got drunk one night, and it's implied in the book too that Carrie was the result of marital rape. So yeah, so that's why she believes Carrie has always been the product of sin. So she's also part,
Mm.
you know, the devil and this and that. And that's
Mm.
why she's so terrible about it, because she experienced that. And she also in the movie says she liked it, which is, she's full of shame with that. So she's got a lot of like internal and external issues going on in terms of Jesus and God and cleanliness and being married. I don't know what happened to her husband. I don't think it says in the book either, but I do know in the book it's very heavily implied that
Yeah.
Carrie was the product of that happening. And that's why her mother is the way she is toward Carrie. Because she sees that as a product, not of God, but a product of the devil.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that makes more sense.
for sure. I think
I
there
mean,
are
sure, they're gambling, you know.
there are
getting
there are
laid,
a few
I don't
there
know
are a
for
few
sure.
lines, Ramona, in the movie that sort of suggest you're reading.
Mhm.
But again, I think that's the beautiful thing about the kinds of movies that we introduce into the canon is that they are so rich with layers that there can be all of these different readings and interpretations of, you know, what exactly is going on, and
Mhm.
it's fun to sort of hash those different things out, you know, with other people when talking about these movies. That's like one of the greatest joys of watching film is, you know, this
Mhm.
part of it where we get to talk about the different ways that we're sort of dissecting and reading it and all that good stuff.
Right.
And as juicy as this conversation is, there are a few other bits and pieces of this movie that I do want us to get to. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna go ahead and jump around a little bit. And this is something that both of you guys kind of mentioned. But the other sort of villains in this movie are the other high schoolers, Carrie's classmates, who are the ones who do the prom prank. They are the ones who, you know, are making fun of her in the locker room and all that stuff. And one of my big takeaways from Carrie has always been that this is one of the best movies about just how much high school fucking sucks.
Absolutely.
High school
100%.
can be scary. I feel like that should have been the tagline for this movie.
High
It's
school can
hell.
be scary.
High school
It's
is hell.
true. Yeah, it's rough. And I love about this movie too, and I'm sure it wasn't the first movie to do it, but in terms of high school and, you know, bullying and being different at school is
Mm-hmm.
that it's wrapped up in a horror movie. It's wrapped up in horror. And I think this movie definitely and it's inspired so much of that genre. Like, I mean, look at Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the TV show, not the movie. If you look at the TV show, the whole TV show, it's a horror supernatural TV show, but it's about growing up. It's, you know, using that analogy. And I think Carrie does that perfectly with her being telekinetic, you know, starting her period at school, not knowing what it is. And instead of getting help, you know, from other girls who go through the same thing every month, she's made fun of, she's teased, she has tampons thrown at her. And that, especially at the end when she's covered in blood, I mean, could you get any more obvious about it when she just starts to rage at everybody? And I'm not saying they deserve it, but it's like, what do you expect when you when you push somebody and you push somebody and you push somebody to the point where they just completely obliterate everything?
I will say everyone deserves it except Tommy.
Well, yeah. I mean, and you know, for that whole scene is so iconic. Like, I can picture that scene in my head right now and know everything that's going on. Is they weren't actually laughing at her. They were shocked. And in her mind, they were laughing at her because she had been treated so badly by her classmates for so long, because her mother told her they're all going to laugh at you, which is another iconic moment.
They're all going to laugh at you.
Yes. So she sees them laughing and she loses it. And, you know, God forbid that would ever happen. You know, I guess I could say that horrible things happen in high schools, because they do.
Oh, this has happened before and since.
And yes, absolutely. So it's just a really great, it's very disturbing in a way that really makes you think, like, who are my kids going to school with? Who did I go to school with? How are they being treated? How are they treating other people? You know, I certainly don't send my girls to school thinking, you know, don't go Carrie on somebody. But I also am hoping, like, you know, they would see a movie like that, because I saw Carrie when I was very, very, very young for the first time.
And also, don't be the bullies.
Well, that's exactly it. Yeah. You don't know what's going on in these kids' home life. Like, don't go to school and make it worse for them. You just never know. But teenage kids don't think about shit like that. They go to school and there's a hierarchy there, and there's a desire to be liked and popular. And, you know, sometimes for some people, the best way to do that is to treat someone else like garbage. So, and you see that in Carrie more than I would have liked, but that's high school, and it sucks.
High school is scary, man. Bullying is bad. High school can be a scary place. Even as someone who is no longer in high school, I find high school kids to be some of the scariest people on the planet. You know, I just always feel like they're making fun of me. I feel like whenever I'm on the subway in New York and a bunch of high school kids get on, they're making fun of me for my dorky outfit and my Kindle. And even though I know they can't hear the music that I'm listening to, they're probably making fun of that too. It's just high schoolers are terrifying, man. And this movie is number one example of that.
Uh-huh.
I also want to know what school Stephen King went to that he always portrays high schoolers as the absolute worst. Because this is not the only movie. Like, because the bullies in it, they are going to kill that fat kid. They are going to kill him. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, King, where did you go to school?
He went through it too, you know? He's writing his experience.
Apparently, because I'm like, tone it down. Shit. Tone it down.
Man, it's true.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the great thing about horror, is that so much of life experiences are just wrapped up in these terrifying situations. Yeah, and you can relate to it. Unfortunately,
I would love for him to tackle high schoolers now, because it's not the same at all. Not even my generation, like, because even we had MySpace, we had the beginning of Facebook, but now it's completely different. It is. I cannot relate to anyone under the age of 20. Like, it's just a different world for them, because they've always had the internet. They've always had
horror movie about internet cyberbullying and stuff would be wild, you know?
I mean, he can make a sequel to his school shooting book that never got released. Like
Rage.
Yeah, Rage. Yeah. Which is damn good. But he can make a sequel to that, because it's like, that's what it is now. I'm not, because
they have horror. There are horror movies now that deal with online garbage. I mean, Host, I think, Unfriended. Yeah. I don't know if Host did, but I know Unfriended was about that. So it's hard to write I think it's hard to write a novel the way Carrie was written or anything else that he dealt with, like it, with doing it modern with cell phones. And I don't know. It just loses a little bit of that magic for me.
That is
when
true,
they-
because the last time he
You know what I
tackled
mean?
cell phones was Cell, and that was awful.
That's our magic sound.
Oh, magic! Look at that.
I have to play it.
I was
I have
like,
to
what?
play it anytime someone says magic.
Okay. Good to know.
Well, have you been waiting? Have you-
His fingers hovering over that button. He's just waiting.
You said magic, and
I did.
it was here. I had to press it.
With the fact that
That's
That's-
okay.
th-
It's very
what other
fine.
Those are the
words?
rules.
Like,
Those
what
are the
am
rules.
I going to say hot dog, and it's just going to be like hot dog? Like, what words do you have on the soundboard?
It's a secret.
Um,
I can't tell you. Then otherwise, you'll just say the words all the time.
That's true.
it's
That's
like
true.
that old
That was
Groundhog
fun.
Morse
I
TV
appreciate
show.
it.
It's like the word of the day is, and then like a fucking duck is going to pop down. Like, what's
No
that?
ducks.
No ducks.
No ducks.
We have no ducks. Okay, let's get back to Carrie because there is
You're the
there's
one
still
that
so
did
much
this.
to talk about.
You're the one.
I didn't do anything.
Oh my
I
god.
didn't do anything.
It's okay.
Let's talk about Sissy's performance because
All timer.
I
Ugh.
think this might be the best performance in any horror movie ever. The case can certainly be made. She does so much with her eyes. This is some of the best eye acting I've ever seen. Like, she sells it so hard. Can you guys just talk about how absolutely amazing her performance is? Sailor, why don't you ramble on for us
Well,
first?
I was gonna wait for Ramona to kick in. Well, before this, the only thing that I think she did, because I don't have IMDb ready, I'm just going off this brain, was the movie Sisters that De Palma had just worked with her. So she's in that, right? Or yeah, she's in that, right?
I think so.
I'm
I haven't seen
gonna
it,
say
but
yes. Her and Margot.
that sounds right.
Are in that together. I'm gonna say yes because my brain is soup. The fact, yeah, she plays it as a broken porcelain doll that's just barely like the way she like while she's walking down the street, like the way she like holds her books as like a shield to protect
Yeah.
herself
Mhm.
from the world because everything is trying to just fuck with her. And it does seem at certain times where it's like, can we just let up? But no, there are people in this world where it feels like the world just can't stop fucking with them. They just won't, and it's true to life, and it sucks for Carrie that even when she gets home, she doesn't get a moment of respite, like because it's even worse. It's even worse at home. So she has no friends at school. She only has the one person reaching out to her that's trying to be a friend. Like if she had one other friend. And that's the worst part of all of this. If she just had one friend, this never would have happened. She would have had a support system. She would have had a friend that says, "Hey, don't go to prom. How about you don't do that? Because that's a setup, you dummy. Don't do that." Like if she just had one friend,
or go to prom and just hang by my side the whole time.
yeah,
I'll
her
protect
friend
you.
would have been her date. Which probably would
When
have
I
been.
Or if she had a
I think if Sue Snell, and I think that if she had known what they were up to, she would have stopped it because, remember Sue's boyfriend was going with Carrie to prom, and at least, and I hate to keep comparing, but at least in the book, they start to become friends a bit, but I think at that point it was too late, which is kind of like in the movie too. It's just too late. And that's what's so distressing about it is you see that there is some hope for her because she stands up to her mom. She goes to prom even though her mom told her not to. She's having a good time, and maybe this is the start of something different for her. But then, Chris and what was his name? Billy? I forget what the boyfriend's name is. John Travolta. They fuck it all up. They just ruin it, and everyone dies, and it's just fucked. But Sissy Spacek is so sympathetic and heartbreaking in this movie. I just want to be in that movie and save her.
Yeah,
because she's just
you just want to give her a nice hug.
And she just does it in such a way that's you feel so. That's the only way I can describe it. You just feel so bad for her from the very first scene. You're disgusted with these other people, and then at the very end, you shouldn't be rooting for kids to die. And yet, when Carrie is flipping over that car, I'm like, yes, like, you go. Good for
Hashtag
you.
girl power, girl boss.
Yes, yes. So it's horrible, and I feel vexed. I'm like, that's not good. But I'm like, you know what? Fuck these kids. They're just horrible.
Yeah.
Sissy Spacek has that ability to make you want her to succeed. To make, you know what? They deserve it. That's what I feel watching Sissy Spacek is like, fine, kill them all. I don't care. They treated you like shit. They deserve it.
Well,
they didn't. Really.
Say it.
It is that.
Say it, Ramona.
Yeah, say it. Preach it.
Die.
Get those bitches.
Just die.
But it is that Frankenstein thing where it's only so many times where you could poke the monster before the monster's like, well, fuck it. The entire town dies.
I will become what you think I am, basically.
You turn me into a monster, now I'm going to be the monster. Everyone dies.
And have you ever
guess
seen
what? You want to see Monster? Here's Monster.
Right. And that scene at the end where she's walking through town, like, she's just captive. She's mesmerizing. And all she's doing is just walking and setting shit on fire and killing people. Like, you just can't not watch it. Like, she's so scary, but in that way, you're just kind of, at least for me, I'm rooting for her.
Well, that is part of the reason why I keep saying Frankenstein. She does look like the Bride of Frankenstein to me. She's got her arms out, kind of, or down to her side.
Blood everywhere.
Yeah, she looks like a monster in that moment. Again, she's a sympathetic monster. She's not the villain. It's like Reagan.
Frankenstein was a sympathetic villain.
Yeah.
So
he didn't ask to be born. He didn't want any of this. He's a man.
Sorry, Frankenstein's monster. I'm sorry.
I will call him Frankenstein. I don't care. Come at me. I don't care.
There's always someone out there ready to make that correction.
I know. Yeah. It's like, we know. Shut up. But it's also, this is another example of King saying, yes, this religious nutball is wrong in every way, but she was right. She's like Miss Carmody in the Mist. She was right. She said, do not go to the prom. It's not going to be good for you. I'm not saying Carrie should have listened, but come on, Carrie.
Mm-hmm.
Come
on.
on.
And her mom wasn't saying don't go, like, because she wanted to protect Carrie. She didn't want her daughter to go and have fun and sin, so she was using this whole, you look stupid, everyone's going to see your breasts, they're going to laugh at you. She is a lot of the reason for her daughter's awkward social anxiety, not knowing what to do or how to behave. And her mom saying they're going to laugh at you is her way of trying to control Carrie. And she pulls, and Carrie's finally like, fuck that, I'm going. And her, and there it is. There's a prank. She's hallucinating, everyone laughing at her. Her mom was right. And that's one of the things is when she's like yelling, when she's dying, she wants her mom. Yeah. And it's really heartbreaking because her mom is one of the worst people in her life, but that she's the only one who quote unquote cared about her.
And that is the one thing she's wrong about her. Is Carrie looks good. Carrie looks good in that dress. Just saying. You look good.
Ooh, with the blood or without the blood?
You know what? I'll take either one. I'll take either
one.
I think that says more about me than... Let's just say without the blood. Let's make it less creepy.
All right, let's talk about Sue. Is it Sue or Susie?
Sue.
It's Sue.
Sue Snell.
Sue Snell.
I feel like every time I watch this movie, I always get confused and think that Sue and Tommy are in on the joke. And it like breaks my heart when I realize that they're not in on the prank.
Yeah. Yeah.
For some reason, that is more heartbreaking than the prank itself, because there are people who are actually trying to, extend that empathy towards her, towards Carrie, and like actually make high school a more enjoyable experience for her. And there's something about the look on Sue's face as she starts to realize what's happening that like really, for some reason, always hits me super, super, super hard.
There's nothing she can do about it. That's the problem.
Yeah.
She knows something is going to happen. She tries to stop it, but that teacher gets in her way. And then it all goes to hell after that. And, poor Tommy.
That gym teacher is...
Yeah.
She's a tough son of a gun.
Yeah.
She's grabbing and smacking and shaking kids around.
Yeah.
That was back in the day when you could do that.
Bigger towns.
I loved it. It's hilarious.
Oh man. I feel for her.
When she smacks Carrie in the beginning, and she's like, snap out of it.
God. It's just another day
like,
for Carrie getting slapped in the face. So
she's like, I'm trying to help you, damn it.
Sue is I don't want to jump into the sequels or the remake, but she is the thread to the sequel, which makes the sequel a direct sequel. She's the only one that comes back. Yeah.
Interesting.
Because she's the one that lives.
Yeah.
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 Hold on to that thought, Sailor. Yeah. We'll come back to the sequel. So,
that's really all we needed to say about it, to be honest.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks.
That's it. It's the Rage Carrie 2. It exists.
Okay. We'll check that off. We'll cross that off the to-do list.
It's better than the remakes. There you go. Shrug.
We'll pocket that thought too, because we're not there yet. So there is a lot. I think there's a lot of other stuff that we can talk about that leads up to that climax.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I think everyone knows about Carrie is that one scene. So I feel like we should give ourselves time to talk about that and really, explore and jump into the scene a bit more. So, Sailor, what do you make of that whole final scene? Pretty much from, Carrie being announced as prom queen on.
I think that's when you see the other version of De Palma I was talking about. Everything before that is classic Hollywood De Palma. When I say classic, he's never been within the system, but the man knows how to put it together to make a hit. He's just, most of the time, that's not where his sensibilities line up. But in that scene, that's where you see De Palma unleashed, where you could see, oh, this is why he was because it really and the rest of the movie is great. This is a masterpiece of a movie. There's a reason why it's in the canon. It's a flawless movie. Mm-hmm. But up until then, this movie was shot conventionally. Like it's not like he's taking any crazy steps. But there's split diopter effects. There's the way he breaks up the images and shit. Like he's going full bore. But it works because in this moment, all the visual trickery and the audio hallucinations we're seeing, right now we're more in Carrie's mindset than we've ever been in the rest of the movie. Like, so the way it's shot feels like it's splintered in a way that, because now Carrie's mind is splintered. So it's frantic. Mm-hmm. It's all over the place. You're seeing crazy shit happening. Mm-hmm. And he's so good at set pieces. When you watch his actual legit horror movies, the De Palma of it all, when you watch those movies, you're like, oh yeah, this is a different breed of director that doesn't exist anymore. He is really good at set pieces, and this is one of the best set pieces. Which, we're not talking about it yet, but just to touch upon one of the great jump scare moments at the end of the movie. Like, not only he direct a great all-timer massacre set piece, he also one-ups it with that great jump scare, which was ripped off on Friday the 13th and has been ripped off repeatedly since then. But it's that scared the shit out of me. But the fact that he filmed it backwards and has a dreamy quality to it, like, De Palma was the right man for this job. Any other director, even a Spielberg at this time, because Spielberg was dabbling in horror. We were just talking about Jurassic Park and whatnot. Spielberg probably could have done a good job, but I don't think his sensibilities would have lent itself, or any director really that I can think of at this time, would have really, because you need that visual, that the visual part of it is really what sets it apart. And it all comes together in the massacre scene. So I think God bless De Palma. He really knew how to fucking sell, because this is it. This is the castle burning down in Frankenstein. Not to keep going back to that, but this is the scene. This is the big set piece at the end of the fucking movie, because that's what you went to the movies for back in the day. Is you wanted to see the big. You watch the original trailer for Frankenstein, they show you the castle exploding in the trailer. They give away the ending. Because they were like, yeah, we know you want to see this. Here it is.
On a big ass screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was the moment. This is the big, holy shit, monster going crazy scene. This is the Godzilla crunching through Tokyo scene. And it's amazing. He fucking delivers. So.
Yeah. And the whole movie is building up to that moment.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole movie, you're watching this girl get tormented, and you know some shit's about to go down and it's going to get bad. And that the whole movie is building up to this prom scene. And then even after the prom, after she walks out of the gym, it's still insane.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just carnage until the very end. And the jump scene is amazing. Scared the crap out of me the first time I saw it too. So it probably would still actually make me jump if I watched it today. But it is. And I agree. Like, and I don't see a lot of De Palma, so I can't really comment on that. But just the kind of different tone in the beginning of the movie up until that prom scene when something, flips in Carrie. And then she becomes Frankenstein, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And she, goes to town on the town. And it's so different. But at the same time, it's still like, can you blame her? I mean, really? No. You've been watching these people be horrible to her. And you want to see her, they get their comeuppance. And it's not a happy ending. So it's so good. I love it.
If we didn't want to compare it to Frankenstein, it's Taxi Driver. Like it's a ticking clock. Travis Bickle throughout that entire movie is a ticking time bomb, and
he's so good at building the continuing tension through the whole thing. Like a ticking clock, something. Even if you didn't see the trailer, even if you're not sure how it's going to end, you look at the poster movie and she's drenched in blood, so it's going to something's going to happen, but you just don't know what the first time you see this movie. And it just builds that tension through the whole thing. And it's very uncomfortable, but in a really great way.
Oh, yeah. One of the best movie posters ever, by the way.
Yeah, fantastic. I love it.
Just going to throw that in there.
Cool.
It's awesome. But yeah, you guys are bringing up such a good point that the whole movie is really building towards it. And, the shift that happens within Carrie, the character, also, happens with De Palma as director. He really goes into beast mode in that final scene. Or I guess it's not the final scene, but that climax, really from the moment, like all the slow-mo of them going up and being announced as prom king and queen to the blood dropping down on her, to Tommy getting hit in the head with the bucket, and then Carrie just unleashing terror on everyone. That's like De Palma that's just De Palma like, hey, I know I was doing some, but I wasn't doing a whole lot, before this, up until this point as a director, but here's me just really getting after it, It's like, for a sports analogy, kind of like, I don't know, like Tom Brady fourth quarter. And
here we go. 2-minute drill.
Yeah. I was having an okay game before. I was having a pretty good game, but you want me to show you what I can really do? Well, here it is. Yeah. And that's the prom, the end of the prom scene in Carrie. It's the
selling point of the movie. We were talking about the poster. Mm-hmm. That's the poster. It's like, you want to see Carrie, take her to prom. And you're like, they are not. They are telling you, they are telegraphing the shot. Watch the movie for the prom scene. It delivers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because up until then, it's also not really a horror movie.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because this movie is so universal. It's so ubiquitous. This is something that, pretty much everyone in modern American culture knows about. About the Carrie prom scene, even if you haven't seen the movie. So even when you're watching it for the first time, you sort of know that it's building to that. But once you get there, it still is so impressive in terms of what it is, like what is actually happening there.
Yeah.
And that's when you know that you've made something great, where everyone knows, what the great thing is about the movie. And when you get to it as a first time viewer, you're still like, oh yeah, that's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
It's not just
And
good in the moment; it stands up.
yeah.
It's you don't have to excuse it. There's so many classics we watched where you have to say in your mind, "Well, it was good then. It was impressive then.
Oh, it's still great.
It's
Yeah.
good. It still holds up because it's
I
practical
mean, and some
effect."
parts of it some parts of it are outdated in a way, but it's not to the point where, you're watching and you're like, oh, come on, that would never happen or that would never happen. It's still so good. And it's one of those movies that when I watch it, even knowing that the prom scene is the most iconic scene in the movie and probably one of the most iconic scenes in the horror genre, but even if you're going into it saying, I want to see the prom scene and you're watching the movie, it's not like, oh, come on, where's the prom scene already? The rest of the movie is still just as enthralling as the end of the movie. The movie, that's when it really kicks in, but you're not bored with the rest of the movie until you get to Carrie becoming Carrie.
No,
yeah, the rest of the movie, you're like, oh yeah, this is
Mhm.
amazing. There's so many layers to this about, female puberty and things like that, and high school drama
Right.
and all of those things, and buying tuxedos for prom. Like there's just so much other, there's so many other things that you're watching, and you're like, wow, these are all great. But then you get to the prom scene and it's like doubly great, and you're like, wow, I was just watching an amazing movie and now it's an all-timer movie,
Yeah.
based on that scene.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
it's amazing.
It's the assault on the titty twister scene in From Dusk Till Dawn, where the rest of the movie is great. Like I would have watched George Clooney and Tarantino just be horrible people for 90 minutes. I would have been fine with that. But then you got that additional layer where you're like,
Yeah,
this is another movie. You just gave me a whole nother movie. I'm enjoying.
Sailor, I'm a little disappointed. I really threw out that tuxedo buying scene for you, hoping that you would grab onto it, but you blew right past it.
I did. I'm sorry because I thought you were setting it up for a sound bite thingy on your little soundboard. I was like, "What are we doing? A tuxedo Sam thing where I got a little penguin voice? I don't know." But yes, we need to talk about the tuxedo buying scene because that is also that's the good and bad of De Palma, where he's like, "Yeah, but I'm also insane." It's the one part of
I
the
love
movie
it
that
so
sticks
much.
out. So, because the rest of this movie, I truly believe. I mean, besides the fact that there's no old technology in it, because there's no cell phones, you could upscale this movie into HD, put this in theaters right now. Younger generation, if they had never heard of this movie, would it would still play for them, except for that one moment, except for that scene. They'd be like, "The fuck is this? What is this?" Oh, this weird shit. Because it feels like such a weird holdover from that time. Because no movie today is doing that.
It
Weird
starts with like
montage.
that. It starts with like that funky music intro, and
Yes.
the guy's like walking up to the to the tuxedo store, and then the whole conversation inside is just it's so silly with these characters that we haven't met before, about a guy who just wants to buy a tuxedo t-shirt. It's
I don't even know why it's in the movie. And that's kind of, on an artistic level, I understand what De Palma's saying. Is like, let's blow through this shit because I don't care. So he's like speeding up the footage. He's like, let's get through this. Because this is the
yeah,
only time we're following people who aren't Carrie. I mean, besides the fact that
yeah.
when they're getting the pig blood. So I feel like they're like, I have to spend like 2 seconds with these characters so I can show them collecting pig blood later. Here we go. So he's like, no, we're speeding through it. Here we go. So, like, on an artistic level, I get it, but it's like, fuck, man, this is weird. This is weird.
It's like, why am I watching Superbad all of a sudden?
Yeah, what is this? What the hell is this? But
Can I say I hated the pig blood scene? They don't really show a lot, but that
it's
really,
tough.
yeah. And like I said, I saw this movie young. That part destroyed me more than the prom scene did.
oh, really?
Probably because they were animals, and a lot of people
Oh
have the
yeah.
soft spot for the animals in movies, so it was disturbing for me. But yeah, I hate if I watch Carrie again, I'm gonna have to fast forward through that. I can't do it.
Okay, speaking of the pig blood scene, And Ramona, I totally agree. And, that is somehow like one of the harder not somehow, but that is one of the harder scenes to get through in the movie.
Yeah.
But I think this is a good point for us to bring up our good friend, John Travolta, who...
Our good friend.
I guess if you don't have the sailor level knowledge of De Palma and his working relationship with John Travolta, the first time I saw this movie, I was so confused. I was like, wait, why is John Travolta here? That's silly.
Yeah.
Look at him with his silly face being in Carrie.
I didn't really buy him much as a bully. I maybe because it was John Travolta. I don't know. The Chris was worse, but I don't know. It's fine.
It is very weird to see him in this movie because at this point he's already on his way to being a superstar. So this isn't like early Travolta. He was already on Welcome Back, Kotter. Saturday Night Fever is right around the corner. If it had already dropped, I think it already dropped. Mm-hmm. So I think he... Oh, no, that was the next year. So I guess this is like... But he's just done Welcome Back, Kotter. So it's like... If Ashton Kutcher off of that 70s show... That's an old reference. I'm trying to think of a show people know. Zoe Deschanel coming off a New Girl being in a bit part of a horror movie. You're like, what the fuck are you doing here? Like, it's weird. Or Jake Johnson.
For some reason, it makes sense for Zoe Deschanel. Deschanel.
Good old Zoe Deschanel. She'd play a good mean girl in a movie. I don't know why when Ashton Kutcher, a 25-year-old reference. I'm old. I'm just an old man. But
I understand what the point you're making is he was at that point a little bit maybe too big of a star, quote unquote, to be in this role. And after reading the book, I felt he was very miscast as Billy. But I mean, he gets the job done, so I guess that's all you can really ask.
I mean, it's a role that he wouldn't have done 2 years later. Let's just put it that way. I think he just wanted to get into movies. And he's like, yeah, I'll do this bit part. Because right after this, he is a movie star. Literally, after the Saturday Night Fever and Grease, he is a movie star. So I think that he's just like, I need a check. Cut me a check, baby. I don't mind him in this because he's in it so little. But it's not one of those. It's when you watch The Burning, because, sailors got to get those deep cuts. When you watch The Burning and Jason Alexander from Seinfeld is in it as one of the asshole kids, you're like, oh, now I'm out of the movie because this is weird seeing you with hair. Yeah. But John Travolta in it for like 2 seconds, it's fine because it's hard to buy him as an asshole, but I think he sells it. But that pig scene takes me out of it because they keep saying "get her done," and I keep thinking of Larry the Cable Guy, and I'm like, did he get this from this?
Oh yeah.
They keep slapping the pig's ass like, "Get her done, boy, get her done," and I'm like,
he says it like too many times.
I'm like, did he get it from this? Did he turn that one line from this movie into $1 billion empire from Carrie?
That would be a hilarious piece of trivia to know that Larry the Cable Guy, his entire bit is based on something that John Travolta's character in Carrie.
Because he's not a good old Southern boy. He was not from the South, but that's a whole nother thing.
That's a whole nother story.
Yeah, David Cross. Well, you want to hear about how much David Cross hates Larry the Cable Guy? Just listen to any podcast, and he will break down how much of a sham that dude is. But it wouldn't surprise me if he was like, "Oh, that's a good line. Let's turn that into an empire. Let's turn that into a punchline of every joke ever." So that's what's hard for me. You're over here like, "Oh no, not them pigs! Don't kill them pigs!" And I'm like, "Larry the Cable Guy, are you here? The ghost of Mater?"
I just want to circle back to the point that you made earlier that Stephen King rambles too much.
Oh my god. It's apropos. He says it a lot, so much that you noticed it. I'm just saying.
Oh man.
He says it a lot.
Sailor, we like to have fun. We like to have fun here.
I like to have fun.
All right, back to Carrie.
John Travolta, Boy in the Plastic Bubble. It's a good movie. Check it out. Which is another Seinfeld reference to tie it into Jason Alexander. I'm just
you got to be quicker on talking, Raph. You got to get going.
I know. I have these windows, and I keep failing to go through them when I have the opportunity, and then the window just shuts on me.
Shut the door on you. All right. What's the next topic of conversation? We're going to talk about that jump scare. Is it great?
Do you want to talk about the jump scare? I was going to ask you guys about the remakes and stuff, and then, but if you want to talk about the jump scare a little bit, we can do that before we get into whether or not you guys have seen.
I want to know what you guys think about the final scene with her mother.
When she hits that Jesus pose hard.
Yeah, is that more or less satisfying than the prom scene? Am I morbid? Is that morbid of me to ask?
No, I just picture that on her shirt, hitting that Jesus pose hard. I'm like, yeah, that's one way to describe it, Raph.
Yeah. I mean, she stabs Carrie in the back.
Yeah.
And then, Carrie gets her revenge, but that's rough. That's a rough scene too. I mean, that's her mom. I mean, her mom's awful, obviously, but I don't know. That scene hits hard for me.
I think King knew that he had to kill the monster, and but there was also two monsters in this because he just turned his most sympathetic character into a monster. So he had to get Carrie home, and it had to be motivated. She wouldn't just kill her mom; that would be out of character for Carrie. So I think it all works.
Had to have a reason.
She comes home. She just wants her mom in this moment. It's the saddest thing in the world. Like
her mom pretends to comfort her too, which is terrible.
We've been watching this. I do feel like that's kind of, I don't want to say out of character for the mom to immediately stab Carrie because she is horrible. But I'm like, I feel like she just would have beat her with a belt. Maybe, I don't know. But it's like it doesn't matter. I just want to see
throw her in the closet again.
Yeah.
Throw in the prayer closet.
Altar. Yeah.
But maybe at that point in time because we do keep cutting back to the mom like praying hard. So maybe that's probably her moment where she's going crazy because she feels like she's lost her daughter to sin.
She lost control.
Yeah.
She lost control of it. And a lot of the time, not to go psychobabble, but in domestic situations, when the abuser finds out they've lost control, that's when they're the deadliest. I mean, that's when the other person is in the most danger. And Carrie's mother lost control of her.
Yeah.
And she knew it. I don't know that she knew what Carrie was up to at prom, but she was done. I think she was going to kill Carrie that night, regardless of what happened.
Yeah. What's crazy is she doesn't even know Carrie killed all these people.
That's the thing is I can't remember, but didn't she come home and take a bath?
Yeah.
Didn't she wash all the blood off of her?
Yeah.
Before her mom saw her, so she doesn't know.
Yeah,
small town things get around, but I don't think that her mom knew what she had done.
No one was texting her.
No one's texting.
Right. No one's texting her. Hey, what's going on?
No, crazy Carrie mom. Guess what? Happened? Check this shit out on the Twitter.
Look at this TikTok.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, Jesus.
Oh, remake this movie.
Which is sad because, make a 2023 Carrie, they're going to be videotaping themselves getting oblitterated by Carrie because they'll get them views. But
Carrie's got a dog filter face on. That's the reality. It is what it is. I'm like, that would be that'd be even more terrifying.
Yeah.
Watching,
but I don't know. I think Carrie being comforted by her mother and then her mother literally stabbing her in the back. Right. It's hard because that's the person she wanted the comfort from. She just did this terrible thing. They all laughed at her. Her mom's.
They're all going to laugh at you.
Her mom's explaining how she was conceived, but it's supposed to be a comfort thing, but it's not. It's horrible. So, and I kind of prefer the Margaret's demise in the movie over the book. Cause in the book, she just stops her heart with her telekinesis. She just stops her heart. She doesn't stab her mom, but this one was very, I think, more on brand with how she should have died.
It is a bit on the nose though.
It is a little on the nose, but I appreciated it. That's what she gets.
She gets it.
I kind of like how on the nose this movie is though.
Yeah.
Ramona, you mentioned the literal backstabbing that happens. We've got hitting the Jesus pose hard, as we said before. I also think the music, the score is super on the nose throughout,
So
but that's
good.
kind
Yeah.
of why it's so great. It
Yeah.
like that's all it needs to be, is on the nose, and it works within the context of everything else that's going on. So I do, I think in another movie, in a lesser movie, the on the nose sort of killing of the mother would have read as really annoying, but here it fits. So
It's super satisfying.
yeah.
Well, that's the difference
It's
between a Brian De Palma and a Zack Snyder. Because Zack Snyder has that Jesus imagery throughout his Superman movies, and you're like, we get it.
Mhm.
We get it. Brian De Palma uses it, and it's like thematic. And you're like, oh, you're tying
and you're like, oh, that's
threads
fun.
together.
Yeah.
It's not just...
You're having fun with it.
Do you get it? Superman is Jesus. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, I think that's the thing here. De Palma's not doing it.
Yeah.
He's not doing a do you get it? He's like, hey, isn't this fun and silly?
Yeah.
Wouldn't this be kooky if we did it this way?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't she deserve it?
Yeah.
I love how Ramona keeps going, she deserved it.
I know.
They all did. They all deserved it.
They trashed poor Carrie.
I promise that's not how I feel like in real life, but in terms of this fictional film, yes, I was rooting for Carrie.
I mean, you said off front, you watch all these true doc things, you like rooting. Like,
I do.
Get him. Get him.
Get him.
Get him.
Get her done.
Get her done.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
So we
promise I'm
talked
not
a little.
crazy.
Oh, we know. We would never accuse you of that.
Just don't hit me with knives, Ramona. I know you got that telling.
I'll keep them to myself. It's
Okay.
okay. We're good. We're good.
We spoke a little bit about what a 2023 remake of Carrie would look like, but I know there's probably still so much about this movie that we can talk to, but we only have so much time, and we still have to get to recommendations and everything. So I did just quickly want to get your guys' thoughts on the two remakes. And Sailor, I know that you mentioned that there is a sequel, but you also mentioned that we don't need to say anything else about that. That all was said. So Ramona, I'll kick it to you first. Ramona, have you seen the remakes? And
you know what? I did not see. I saw the 2013 remake with Chloe Grace Moretz, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think when it feels it was a little modernized, I guess, and that's fine. But again, because it was modernized, I just feel like it was missing some of that. I don't want to say magic because you're going to play that sound, but if it's missing some of there it is. It was just missing something for me. I don't know if it was the casting. Julianne Moore was okay, but it felt like she was doing her best Margaret White in a way. I don't know. It wasn't very satisfactory to me. I saw it once and I was like, that's good enough. I did not see the other remake. What was that? 2002?
Yeah.
Did I see that one? I can't remember. Who was in that one?
Angela Bettis.
I don't know who that is.
You would know her from the Carrie remake. She was in... Before that, she was in May. And Girl Interrupted. She hasn't lit the world on fire. So
you know what? I did not see the 2002.
But I did. Not that but it's not great. But it's not.
I didn't see. Just to briefly put in my 2 cents, I did see The Rage, Carrie 2. I did see the sequel. I saw it in the movie theater when it came out. I did not like it, only because I thought it was like gratuitous violence rather than like, Carrie was, where it was just, I don't know. There was a difference there.
Meaningful violence.
Yeah, I guess you could say meaningful violence, but Carrie 2 to me was just gratuitous and just kind of like all of fun ways we can have people's heads go flying off. I didn't like it. So I don't really have anything else to say about that one.
I have to ask you, Ramona, as the woman here, do you think Chloe Grace Moretz was miscast?
Yes.
Because she's...
I do. I felt she was miscast because, again, like I mentioned earlier, I felt like she took Carrie and made her more... I don't know. There were moments where I felt she was kind of playing into that villainy, like leaning into that a little bit. Not fully, but enough that I noticed it, and I was like, I don't like it.
So your problem with it is that she's too monstrous, not that she's too pretty.
Oh no, I mean she is. Yeah, I guess she is a little too pretty for it, but Sissy Spacek I thought was very pretty too. They just made her I don't want to say they even made her ugly. They just made her more homely
Yes.
in Carrie. But I think Sissy Spacek's beautiful, especially when
Yeah.
she's wearing the prom dress. I'm like, she's gorgeous. Like, what are these people thinking? Chloe Moretz is a little bit more conventionally beautiful, I guess. But I wasn't so focused on that as much as I was just the way she played Carrie. I wasn't satisfied with. To me, it wasn't about her looks. It was about her presence and her home life and what kids knew about her. She was just weird to them because of her home life, because her mother damaged her so much throughout her childhood. She didn't know how to be a normal teenager or a normal kid, and other kids latch on to that. They see something that's not like them. They see someone who's different, who's strange, and that's what kicks into gear their desire to torment those people. It makes them feel better. And I think with Carrie, it's about that, because you see Sissy Spacek when she gets ready for prom. She's very pretty. Her hair is done nice. She's got the corsage. She got the dress. But she's pretty throughout the whole thing, and that's not the problem. The problem is who she is as a person puts other people off, even though they don't know her very well. She's just weird to them, and that's what makes her an outcast.
Well, I just mentioned it because that was the major criticism. It was like Andrew Garfield.
And I can absolutely see that. And if Chloe Moretz had been able to play Carrie the way Sissy Spacek played Carrie, then maybe I could believe it. But like you said, when you're the prettiest person in the whole film, it's hard to like buy that no boys in this school
it's
are
like,
attracted to her.
Yeah, it stretches believability. So
I get that.
I do think Chloe did the best she could, but she is unfortunately miscast in that movie.
Yes, I agree.
So it sounds like our ultimate consensus is we're sort of out on the remakes. But I think it's interesting, with horror movies, and a lot of the other ones that we'll be talking about the rest of this Halloween season on the Canon, is just that like the horror genre, more so than other genres, seems to be really in love with the idea of remakes in ways that other film genres are not. So I always think it's interesting to sort of I think it will be interesting for us over these next couple of episodes of the Canon to talk about how the originals sort of, live up to remakes and all that good stuff. So this has been an amazing conversation about Carrie. It's been a lot of fun. There have been a lot more giggles about this movie than I thought there would have been going into the conversation, but that's why we love doing this. Before we get into recommendations, a thing that we sort of started last week, and I think it's a really cool idea for us to keep doing or try to do, is let's just do like make the final argument for why this movie is in the canon, what makes it essential, and then what is its lasting legacy. And Sailor, we'll go to you first.
I mean, besides it being the kickstarting Stephen King's run of amazing adaptations, including The Running Man, but we're not going to get into that. Which is you're not alone. Stephen King himself fucking hated it so much that he's like, "All right, we're done. I'm putting my foot down. I'm either all in or I'm all out because y'all done fucked up my book." Which, agreed, it's a terrible adaptation, but it's a great version of its own thing. Besides, we're getting into Carrie. Besides the fact that they kicked off the Stephen King adaptation, which is nothing but a lot of bangers. And besides the fact that it's Stephen King's first book, and besides the fact that it's Brian De Palma's one of his best movies, if not best movie, you can make the argument that it is. It's just one of the great depictions of how brutal high school can be. There's certain things that movies do that automatically put them in the conversation, whether it's a scene, whether it's just the plot, whatever it is. There's certain things, and to me, it's like how, like the Slapshot will always be the best hockey movie. Like we're never gonna get past that. Like that's it.
I'm not wearing hockey pads.
How in the hell? How did hockey? Why was that on the soundboard? Why was that on the soundboard?
Because that's one of the best movie quotes of all time.
Oh my god! And you did it to me the last time too. I set myself up for failure there. You're just waiting. You have them written down on a wall, and you're like, all right, come on, big winner. This is the best depiction of how bad high school can be. And there's been many, many, many other movies that show high school as hell, which is basically what you want to summarize Carrie as, high school as hell, but none of them do it as well. On top of that, you should have that great high school as hell. On top of that, you have one of the great depictions of a lonely, isolated teen. It's just a broken porcelain doll of a character. That's Sissy Spacek in this movie. On top of that, you have amazing performances across the board, but especially Sissy Spacek and Piper Laurie. Which we talked about Piper Laurie, but we really didn't hammer home how good she is. Because the moms in the other movies, I think, are really good. Patricia Clarkson in the first remake is really good. Julianne Moore in the second remake, I think, is really good. It's hard not to compare them, but I think they all did really good. But it's Piper Laurie because you believe it. They're not just doing performances. They are these characters. Sissy Spacek is Carrie White. You can't separate the two. So on top of that, and then on top of that, you have Brian De Palma's excellent because it's like an 8-layered bean dip, and every layer is the best thing you've ever tasted. That's what Carrie is. There's no black olives in this bean dip, baby. It's all fucking nachos, cheese, and meat, and I guess black olives. You need that, but
I like black olives.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, that's cool. I guess the tuxedo scene.
Sailor, that was great.
I don't know how I'm supposed to follow up with Carrie's bean dip, but I'm going to do my best. Sailor really did touch on so many points of why this movie belongs in the canon to me and why it's essential, not only viewing for horror fans, but for movie fans. Because like we've discussed, like the first half of this movie up to the climax is very much like a drama. Like there's not a lot of horror in it besides the psychological, home life and high school. And then at the end with the prom, it gets into the real, nuts of it all. But to me, and like Sailor mentioned, this is one of the best movies that really shows you in a horrifying way of just how tough high school can be. Not even just high school, but like being a teenager and, speaking as a woman going through, finally, starting your period and being surrounded by, puberty and hormones and being popular versus not being popular and what your life is going to be like when you walk into that high school through those doors. Your popularity is going to determine just how terrible of an experience you're going to have. And Carrie really hits that home for me. Like it really is able to signify, and a lot of women are going to be able to watch this movie and be like, oh yeah, I totally relate to Carrie, which is unfortunate, but that's just life. And that's life for a teenage girl. And it's really rough to be, and I guess in a way you could say this as a coming of age movie in the worst way. It's not something that you're going to watch and be like, oh, I remember my days with my friends. This is going to be for the people who are like, oh my God, I remember high school and it was awful. So I think it's just a really great like metaphor that, Carrie getting her period and starting to realize she has telekinesis. And I'm not saying the two are, connected in any way, but, and then going to the very end where she's covered in blood, just like at the beginning. She had blood and people are throwing shit at her. And at the end, she's covered in blood and she has people laughing at her. And it's just, that's the straw that breaks the camel's back. And it just goes from bad to worse for everybody. So I think the performances are amazing. I don't know how many times people are getting nominated. And that's a big, a source of contention for the Academy is there's so many wonderful performances in horror films and they're always overlooked and it drives me crazy. So the fact that Sissy Spacek and Piper Laurie were nominated for this film to me was a very big deal. I wasn't obviously alive when I think that happened. When did this movie come out? 76.
77.
Yeah, I was not born yet, but watching this movie, you can absolutely see why they got nominated for their Academy Awards. And I wouldn't have been upset looking at the list of people who were nominated if they had won. But it's just everything about this movie works. The performances, the story itself, the fact that it stuck so close to the source material. Carrie itself as a novel is fantastic. So if you haven't read it, it's not one of my recommendations, but I would absolutely say read this book because it flies by. You'll get done in a couple days, if that. Like, you'll want to see what's going to happen, even though you already know. But this movie really helped trigger horror movie love for me, because I saw this. I'll admit it, I saw this when I was like in second grade, because I remember very distinctly my parents watching this, and I sat there and watched it with them, and they didn't say a word to me. So I watched it. That's why the pig thing sticks out at me. The pig scene. Like, there's just moments in this movie that have stuck with me my whole life. And I think that says a lot about how terrifying this movie really is. It's just high school cruelty at its best. And I hate saying at its best because that makes it sound like I enjoy it, but it is. If I could get away with being a health teacher and showing this in high school to kids and being like, be careful who you tease, I would totally do it, because it's a great lesson. Just, you don't know what kids are going through at home. You don't know what's going on in their life before they walk into school. And this movie is just one of those that if you watch this movie, you're going to go to school and you're going to be like, who the hell in this class has telekinesis and is going to try to kill me all night? Anyway, I'm verging into a sailor ramble, but I just think this is
a Stephen King ramble.
A Stephen King ramble. It's a horror movie that is still talked about. It came out in 76, 77. We still talk about it today. People still wear Carrie costumes on Halloween. Margaret White, to me, is one of the best horror villains in movie history, and probably top 10 in my book. And it's just, the ending is fantastic. The jump scare, the way it ends it's not happy. It ends on a scare, but it stays with you too after you've seen it. It's not something that you go to bed and the next day you've forgotten about it. Carrie is a movie that will stick with you. And I think that's why it's got such a long lasting legacy, and absolutely is a movie people should be seeing if they haven't already.
This is a damn near perfect movie. Maybe it is a perfect movie. It's in a no doubter to be in the canon, in my opinion. I'm happy that we had you two guys on to talk about it. Before we get out of here, we're going to run into some recommendations. Ramon and Sailor, you guys know the rules, but for any new listeners out there who maybe don't, for each movie, we recommend 3 things for folks to check out. At least one of them has to be a movie. The other 2 things can be any and everything. They can be TV shows, they can be books, they can be comic books, it can be music, it can be a restaurant, and we don't allow any of the recommendations to be another movie that is already in the canon. So, with all that being said,
are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
This is what we're here for. We're here for recommendations. Let's jump into it. We'll go Ramona, Sailor, Raph, and then we'll just keep that loop going. So, Ramona, kick us off with your first recommendation.
Okay, so I have a bit of a theme with my recommendations, which I'm sure you will catch on to before I'm done.
I love themes.
Going with the theme of, Carrie being a teenage girl, getting her first period, dealing with being different and her new supernatural powers. My first recommendation is Ginger Snaps. Teenage girl gets her period, bitten by a werewolf. Can't beat that analogy. I actually saw Ginger Snaps for the first time like a year ago. I haven't seen it. I had never seen it, but I enjoyed it. It was campy. It was fun. So I enjoyed it a lot. And I think that it would be a nice little companion piece to Carrie.
That's a great first pick. I love that. That's like pretty perfect.
Yeah.
It's one of the best werewolf movies and a great allegory for women. Werewolf as period. So another movie.
Yeah, puberty. It's great. It was Ginger Snaps or Turning Red. So I went with Ginger Snaps instead of Pixar.
I also recommend the sequels, which I think are pretty good.
Okay, I'll have to watch them.
The second one I think has Angela Bettis in it from I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I think
It's all
she's in it.
connected.
I think she's in
Yeah.
it.
It's all connected. Sailor, what's your first recommendation?
Well, we were talking about Brian De Palma wanting to work within the Hitchcock genre. Carrie itself has created a subgenre of movies where high school person with powers attacks people in a high school. I mean, Speak No Evil with Clint Howard. You have Fear No Evil. It literally has the son of the devil attacking people.
How many recommendations are you giving for this?
This is the subgenre. I ain't recommending those movies. I'm just saying there's also a subgenre of girl with telekinesis attacks things. Stranger Things is a great example of that, which is literally taking Carrie versus it, the it monster. Not Pennywise, but if it was just an alien. So the best version of this, of the subgenre of girl with telekinesis going after things, is, of course, Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood, where Carrie fights Jason. That's what that movie is. There's no bones about it. That's what that movie is. Girl with telekinesis fights Jason. Is it a good movie?
I
That's
doubt it.
No, there's.
I thought you were asking.
No, that's it. Is it a good movie? Shrugs. It's a movie where Carrie fights Jason, because you're not going to follow this movie up with another gourmet. Because, you go to a great restaurant, you're like, oh, I want some dessert. Let's spend $60 on some great. No, you want some trash, baby. You want to follow up something good. Cleanse the palate with a little bit of trash, right? You want to see how bad Carrie could be? Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. She fights Jason. There you go.
Awesome.
I totally thought you were going with a different movie, but I should have known better. I should have known that you weren't going to go with the movie that I thought you were going to go with. But I'm not going to mention now, but I might mention later as a bonus, even though we're not really supposed to do that.
Oh, you can, because I guarantee I'm not going to pick it.
I thought you were going to mention Matilda, but that's very off-brand for Sailor.
It's too good. It's too
I would
obvious.
have loved that.
I'm not recommending it, but it was on my list of potential movies to recommend.
I even like the remake, the music.
Wow.
It's really good.
So for my first pick, I'm going to go with all movies for my recommendations, because I only see the world through movies. Those are the only reference points for anything for me, because I'm a total weirdo. But for my first pick,
I thought your recommendation was literally all the movies. I was like, the fuck pick
just
is this?
movies.
Yeah. We're just doing
Number one, watch movies. They're great.
Everything.
No, I'm going with a movie that is about a teenage girl and her relationship with her mother. It's not necessarily a horror movie, but it is a great movie. I'm curious to hear. I feel like there's a good chance that Sailor will say that it's not a great movie. I feel like Ramona's probably going to agree with me. But for my first pick, I'm going with Lady Bird.
I love Lady Bird.
Why are you throwing
she's not as bad of a mom. But
I see it.
There's an interesting, tension between mother and daughter.
Yes.
Sorry, Sailor, what were you saying?
I don't know why you throwing me under this. Greta Gerwig is my birthday girlfriend. I love Greta. I love this movie. And
it's so good.
We never know with you, Sailor. I feel like you're a hot take machine. So I can easily see you loving Lady Bird, which
Laurie
you do.
Metcalf is one of my favorite actresses. And to tie this into Stephen King, she played Annie Wilkes on stage.
Amazing. It's all connected.
The movie, the mom in this, she played Annie Wilkes, which Bruce Willis was the.
That's right.
The author,
he was. Yeah.
And that was when people started
Misery.
They were giving him shit because he clearly had a mic in his ear to read the lines, and people were giving him shit. And now everyone's like, "Oh,
now you know why."
Yeah. All the reporters are like, "Yeah, oops, sorry,
whoops."
Feel bad about that.
So there you have it.
Oh, Lady Bird's a great movie. That's a great pick.
Yeah, that was a good recommendation.
All right, we all love Lady Bird. That's good to know. And
one of the best
listener,
movies of 2017. That year had bangers, not the bangers.
Bangers, yeah. Ramona, what's your second pick?
So my second pick is one of my favorite movies. And again, it's about teenage girls kind of coming into their own, discovering they have some pretty fun abilities that they use to better their lives and then kill people. And that movie's The Craft.
I knew it.
Yes.
Nice.
God,
I've
I watched
actually
that
never
movie a
seen
lot
it.
when I was a teenager. Like, I watched that movie so much as a teenager. Okay, a little older than a teenager, but great movie. It kind of fits with that theme of, supernatural powers, revenge, high school. So it's great. I love it.
Whenever somebody asks
need
me
to
why
watch
I
that.
have awful taste in movies, let's just give them that movie. It's like, now you know why.
The Craft is so
For
fun.
Fairuza
You should
Balk
watch
in that
it.
movie, I'm like, yes, fuck up my life with
Crazy.
please.
She's crazy, and I love it.
Yes.
Everything about her performance is amazing.
She's so good.
That's definitely going to be a movie that I watch this October.
Oh,
that's
please,
gonna be,
please,
That's on my
please.
Halloween watch list for this year. Absolutely.
It holds up. It
'Cause
holds
I've
up.
only heard great things. Sweet. That's an awesome pick.
Yep.
Sailor, what's your second recommendation?
All right. So a
What
lot
are
of
you
the
wowing us with?
oh yeah, two of the movies on my list are about Carrie. This one is about high school. All right, and two of the themes that we could either do is girl power or girl having crazy powers and attacking people, or how bad high school is. And this is literally 6 people are trapped within the confines of their old high school during their 10th high school reunion with a psychotic mass preacher who kills them off for their sinful lives. That's a lot of Carrie overlap. And this person is
Also,
apparently
some gross point blank overlap from last week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of overlap. Apparently, the killer in this is also the son of the devil, but that has nothing to do with anything. That's just tacked onto the movie. I am, of course, talking about the movie The Redeemer, Son of Satan, which came out the year after this. It was supposed to be a simple slasher movie. Then Carrie came out and you're like, how about we tack on some shit where he's the son of the devil? And you're like, the fuck? It has nothing to do with it. The movie begins and ends with a kid walking out of a lake, and you're like, what? And then at some point, I think they explain that he's the son of the devil who just wants to. All of that is thrown away. It means nothing to anybody. People stuck in a high school getting killed off by one of the great underrated slasher villains of the late 70s, early 80s. Redeemer, Son of Satan. High school is hell. That's my way I'm tying this into, Carrie.
I love it.
Don't worry about it.
Thank you, Sailor.
Don't crack
Sailor, never change.
Never crack your brain trying to figure out the connection.
I've got some Googling to do after this.
Yeah, there's just like no way that I would have ever known about this movie if it weren't for you. And
Same.
I'm just so grateful that we have you in our lives.
I don't know if y'all
introduce us to things like the
either
Redeemer,
alcohol, or any sort of substances I'm just saying, if you do, use those things when you watch this movie, and you'll have a good time.
There's another recommendation.
There you go.
I love it. A nice pairing. Some mind-altering substances and
I'm leaving it up to you. You want to lick toads, huff paint, do some pills, whatever it is. It's gonna make Redeemer, Son of Satan a good time, guaranteed.
Oh boy.
Okay, I think to change the pace, I have a bunch of movies, and I don't know which ones to pick. But I feel like I want to pick something a bit more conventional to sort of balance out Sailor, your last pick.
Oh yeah, I'm going full bore.
Okay, I'm gonna do this one. So I'm gonna go with just a connection point of another great Sissy Spacek movie. I don't know if it came out before this or after this, but also in the 70s. It's a shame that there are no Terrence Malick movies in the canon. So I'm going to try to recommend his movies as much as possible throughout this show. For this episode, I'm, of course, recommending Badlands, his first movie with Sissy Spacek and Martin Sheen. Super, super good movie. You can tell right away that he's one of the finest talents in filmmaking of his generation, maybe of all time. Really good movie. So I'm gonna check it out. Oh, I should have caveated my sailor take for this one and not for Lady Bird.
Oh yeah,
I missed it.
I can't fucking stand Terrence Malick.
That's why there are no Terrence Malick movies in the canon.
Right.
Yep.
You'll never see him on any list.
I will. But if there was going to be one, it would be Badlands.
Nice.
I think this is his only good movie. The other one, Days of Heaven, I like. I'll take that one too. Everything else is just a long fucking perfume commercial, and I'm like, fuck, man, I can't stand it. I have no patience for Terrence Malick. But because this is more performance and not, hey, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, I'll figure it out in the edit. This is why this movie works. Sissy Spacek and Martin Sheen are on fucking fire in this.
Oh yeah, the opening scene of the two of them talking, like that low angle shot of them just like walking down the street is just so beautiful, and they're both amazing. So
yeah,
check out Badlands.
It's loosely based on the Starkweather thing. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, Sissy Spacek is also baby in this. She looks basically the same, even though this is 3 years earlier. Yeah, this is the one Malick that I will go to bat for. The rest, you can have them, Raph. They're all yours.
We'll have that conversation another day. Sailor.
We will never, because they're never going to get in the canon until I die.
Ooh.
I mean, maybe this one. This is a good one.
I don't know. Just like Ramona, what's your third pick?
Are you dying?
Okay, so
good movies, Raph. Not good.
My third pick is going to go ahead and close my theme of teenage girls, high school, revenge. Jennifer's Body.
Oh yes, dude! Jennifer's Body is awesome.
I swear to
Teenage
God,
girls sacrifice to Satan. Were you going to pick Jennifer's Body?
No, it is.
Okay, good.
No, I was going to bring it up earlier and I forgot. No, this is a great pick because this is literally girl is monster in this movie. But
girl becomes monster, eats boys, and it's great. I love it. I think it's an underrated horror film. Mm-hmm. So I would say, along with my other picks, that this one would go well with watching Carrie.
No, because it's another. It's a great another. You're picking all these great. Why can't I think of the word? Not metaphor. Analogies.
Analogies.
I'm not even watching Redeemer, Son of Satan right now. I'm not even high. Another analogy for how toxic a girl friendship can be.
Yep.
Because that's what it is. It's two friends who are friends who stop being friends, and how horrible that can be. She's just literally a monster in it. This is a great movie. It became a great cult classic because it came out, it did what it did and kind of disappeared. Mm-hmm. But then women kept pushing this movie because female-led horror movies, unfortunately, kind of come
very rare.
Yeah, and this is one of the best ones. Megan Fox has never been better. Amanda Seyfried,
she shows she can actually act in this movie. That's why I like it, because I think she was typecast a lot and she doesn't really help herself much, but she's not a bad actress. And I think she really showed that in Jennifer's Body. She just hasn't gotten the roles that can show that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they keep trying to cast her as pretty girl in action movies, and that's not what she is.
Yeah.
She needs to do genre movies. Every time she does horror movies, she's great. And this is the best example of that. Jennifer's Body.
Yeah.
Close to a masterpiece. It could be in the canon. Closer to the canon than Terrence Malick.
Oh, fuck off.
Have you seen it, Raph?
You got him.
Got him. Got your ass.
Got him.
Got your ass.
Oh, man. Okay, but that was my pick.
So I think Terrence Malick take. Bad take.
No, the
bad take, Sailor.
The best take that's ever been.
You just named that button Sailor.
Yeah, the Sailor button.
Sailor button.
What's your final recommendation, Sailor?
Oh, it's funny that you picked Jennifer's Body because I'm picking the 1978 movie,
The Thin Red Line.
The Thin You want to
The New
waste
World.
4 hours of your life. Jennifer. Now, we're keeping within the subgenre of Carrie movies. Now, picture Carrie. Same movie. Literally the exact same movie, but replace her telekinesis with the ability to manifest snakes. And you're thinking, why the fuck would anybody make this movie? And here's the answer. Because it's fucking awesome. She can make snakes, and she uses snakes to kill everybody. You want to see
That sounds pretty rad.
You want to see a scene that one-ups the prom? Oh, a fire extinguisher? How about a giant-ass snake? How about that? You think a fire extinguisher is going to be scary? Or a giant fire hose, I mean? That's not scary. But a giant snake and a bunch of snakes? Jennifer. It's the same movie as Carrie. I can't stress this enough. It's the same movie as Carrie, but instead of her moving shit with her mind, snakes! Jennifer.
Wait,
On
so
a
the
plane?
movie's called Jennifer?
It is called Jennifer, yes.
Okay.
From 1978. Again, just
1978.
right after
Jennifer.
Carrie, they're like, we need a Carrie movie. What you got? Snakes. Done.
And the name Jennifer.
That's it. Yes, and it's one word name, just like Carrie. Here's the thing: originality overrated. Give me, if you're gonna rip off something, give me snakes. If Thin Red Line had a bunch of snakes in it, just saying.
There are snakes,
Not enough.
just in different ways.
Oh my god! Oh, boo yourself. Do it. Boo yourself. Do it. Do
No.
it, you coward.
Nope.
He's in charge of the buttons.
Yeah, clearly. I'm gonna get my own
yeah.
damn button.
All right.
All right.
All right.
Button. Jennifer.
Good luck with that.
It's got snakes.
Nice.
He's
That's a
ordering
good
it
pick.
now.
That is a good pick. Guys, I'm so conflicted about where to go with my final pick. I feel like there are a bunch of movies that I can recommend that I have written down. Movies that I love, movies that I would argue for should be in the canon, but also movies that I might be able to keep in my pocket to recommend for other future episodes. So what I think I'm going to do instead is I'm going to recommend the movie that I mentioned before that I said I wasn't going to recommend. And I'm going to recommend Matilda because it's like Carrie but fun.
It's like Carrie. Well, yeah.
A fun Carrie without the blood.
Yeah, just it's a little lighter.
A little lighter.
I mean, Matilda does not have a good time either in that movie. Let's be very clear.
That's true. That's true. You're right.
Yeah, but it is more kid friendly.
It
It
is.
is more kid friendly.
Fewer pigs die.
Fewer pigs die.
Aw.
I will
which is a
also,
plus for us.
say that, like I said, the musical is really good. It's a solid remake.
Yeah,
I don't even consider it a remake. It's just an adaptation of the musical, and it's really good.
I love it.
Matilda.
I actually prefer
Matilda. That's my
prefer
final
it than the original in some ways. Is that a hot take? It's you haven't seen it. I know you haven't. You haven't seen it. I know you haven't.
No, I just wanted to boo you.
I know. I'll take
Okay.
it. I'll take the blues. It's a solid. I'm telling you right now, it's better than you think it will be.
Before we get out of here,
Yeah.
let's
Oh, it's not
do
Jennifer.
one final run through of all of our recommendations. Same order. Ramona, what you got?
So my first recommendation is Ginger Snaps. My second was The Craft. And my third recommendation is Jennifer's Body.
And I recommended
Love it.
Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. It's a hell of a title. Redeemer, Son of Satan, and Jennifer.
Lovely. I'm recommending Lady Bird, Terrence Malick's Badlands, and Matilda. Danny DeVito's Matilda. I should probably throw that in there.
Yeah.
Ramona and Sailor, this has been so much fun. I'm so happy that you guys were here to help me kick off Halloween season. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, there's going to be a ton of really fun content on Screenage Wasteland. We're going to have a ton of great horror movies throughout October for, here on the Canon. We hope that you join us. We hope that you're ready for more spooks. It should be a great Spooktober season, as we like to say. Ramona, Sailor, I hope you guys stay spooky, but also stay safe. Any parting words? Any final goodbyes for everyone?
None from me. Just thanks for having me on again. It's always a good time. And I'm very, very ready for Halloween.
Can't wait for Halloween and turn some Alex Sucks.
Oh, fuck off.